the rest of lesson 10. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah. All right. Study now. Let's bring this. Study now. Okay. Time is sun plus what is simple. Chair is a strange tree. Wither is a tree that has grown old. Fishing, that's water and fish. Desk, that's wood and the wind scattering the papers. Village, that's trees glued together to form the perimeter. Fire, well, that's fire. Inlay, that's the truth hidden in the soil. Truth hidden in the soil. Yeah. Forest. Oops, that's a tree. Polovina. That's a tree with a monk. Saint Polovina. Splash. Well, that is splash. That is a wave overextended wave extremity. Pressure. Pressure is soil under a cliff. Cavity. It's a kid with a fish hook. Buddhist temple. Well, that's soil glued to the soil. Hedge. Well, hedge is soil with a span. Yeah, it's a bit hard. It's yeah. Plan. Well, that's lying relaxed. In a hammock on a tree, dreaming of the next plan. Horizon. Horizon is water, then a cliff, and ivy. Japanese Judas tree. That is tree and ivy. Lamp. That's a fire nailed. It's not. It's like this. Oops. It's like this. Nail. Calendar. That's two trees, a grove, growing under a cliff by the day. Ashes. That's where fire goes to die under a cliff. younger sister. That's a woman. Not yet. A grown. Yeah. Book. Oh, that's a tree. Cut. Extremity. That's an overgrown branch on a tree. Crude. Crude is best material to make magic wand. Is crude wood. Okay. Frame. That's a tree. Wood. And 9 and 10. Parch. Well, a parch is a fire parching goods made out of wood. Stocks. Well, that's a tree with vermilion color leaves. Cape. Cape is strange land. Spot. That's fortune telling using fire spots. The spots after looking into fire. Okay. Treetops. That's where we hang candles. Tree. Hang candles on the treetops. Level, where scoop out clay or soil, scoop out soil with the ladle and extra drop. Plant. To plant is to stick a tree straight away. Straight away. Not yet. A branch undergrown. Fish. That's bound up. Rice field. Fire. Tree. That's a tree. Obscure. Well, that's the sun has not yet dawned on such ideas. Obscure ideas. Anxiety. That's a firehead. It's a fire head. Apricot. Well, it's waiting. It's a mouth waiting for below a tree. Ah, it's not connected. It's not connected. Yeah. Enter. Well, before taking splinters out of your neighbor's eyes, take them out of your own relationships. Yeah. Illuminate. Illuminate, that is shining with fire. Shining with fire. Tag. That's a tree with a fish hook where the tag is hanged. Rise up. Rise up is a sun and a measuring box. Shelf. Well, that's a tree companion because they spend more time with the books than us. Shelf. Thin. That's a water inflammation. It's not a lambda, it's just fire. Disaster. Well, that's both flooding and fire at the same time. Yeah. Spit. Well, that's dirty mouth. So mouth, dirt. Mouth, dirt. Yeah. It's not dirty. It's mouth, dirt. Yeah. Oak. That's white tree. Inflammation. Well, that's two fires. Soil. That is soil. Square jewel. That's soil on soil. Elbow. Elbow is part of body. Elbow grease, but this is glue. Seal. That's seal is ivy glue. Ivy glue. Yeah. Farm. Well, that's fireplace and rice field. Grove. That's two trees. Flavor. Well, that's the mouth ruining the tree. Not yet, right? Vermilion is a leaf not yet falling off a tree. Gallbladder. Gallbladder is part of body. Night break, I believe. Part of body and yeah, night break. Okay, good. Done. Let's try now the other way around, showing the kanji and do the keyword rebuild. Now we have okay. Let's see. Study. This is crude. Pressure. Buddhist temple. Desk. Seal. Fish. Hedge. A time. Extremity. Interred. A parch. Grove. Level. Tag. Anxiety. Vermilion. Inlay. Wither. Disaster. Japanese Judas trees. fishing. Soil. Stocks. Plant. Splash. Calendar. Spit. Obscure. Shelf. Not yet. Forest. Spot. Illuminate. Paulowina. Ashes. Cape. Square jewel. Plan. Lamp. Fire. Treetops. Flavor. Horizon. Thin. Younger sister. Book. Frame. Apricot. Village. Inflammation. Chair. Tree. Farm. Oak. 10. 7. Rice field. Alright, done. This is done. 100% retention rate. And we have how many? How many cards do we have? I don't know how many cards we have. Anyway. We gotta do remembering the kanji, and we gotta do the rest of lesson 10, which is from 237 to 249. So good 13 kanji. So add lazy kanji. Use. Yeah. Okay. So this is primitive and not a kanji. And it's flower. Okay. So we are not yet equipped with all the pieces necessary to learn the character for flower. So shall have to content ourselves here with the first 3 strokes, which represent the primitive of the same meaning. Isn't this shouldn't this be like grass? I don't know. Concentrate on the actual bloom of the flower and keep a particular flower in mind. Try a rose, a tulip, or a daisy, since none of them will have their own their own kanji. Think about it well, since once you have decided on a flower of choice, you will be using it in a rather larger number of stories later on. I don't really. Tulip is fine, I guess. Yeah. Anywho, so it's just a horizontal line and two notches. And now remove the primitive noun kanji. And the first kanji we have is young. And yeah, here we see a flower. Just a moment. Here we see a flower held in the right hand. You can imagine yourself in a magic garden where flowers picked with the right hand grant eternal youth, and those picked with the left premature senility. Go ahead, pick one with each hand, and watch what happens. Okay, so flower, and with the right hand. Okay, this is young. All right, add. So now we have a flower. So this is grass. Grass is a flower and sunflower. Okay. Perhaps you know the custom of seeding grass randomly. The custom of seeding grass randomly or in some particular pattern with the flower called the crocus, which blooms for a few days each year in early spring. As the grass begins to turn green again after winter has passed, these tiny flowers dot up here and there. Now just look out your window at a patch of grass somewhere and think what a nice idea it would be to have your name spelled out in flower uh, once as a sort of early harbinger of spring. Okay. Early. Oh, yeah. Early spring. Okay, perhaps you know the custom of seeding grass randomly or in some particular pattern with a flower called the crocus, which blooms for a few days each year in early spring. Okay, crocus blooms each year in early spring, so flower early is grass. Add. Suffering. Old. So flower old. The picture of suffering we are given here is that of a flower that has grown old. When a flower ages, it pales, dries up, and probably even suffers. If you think that plants are incapable of such feelings, then ask yourself why so many people believe that talking to their flowers helps them bloom better. Okay, so suffering is a flower that has grown old. Add flower can. Bullying. A nosegay of flowers make a nice gift, but if those flowers are poison oak, they can amount to bullying. Be sure to emphasize the word can when you repeat this little phrase to yourself. So flowers, poisonous or can be bullying, bullying. Add. House flower C. Tolerant. The house of flowers or hothouse has become a metaphor for narrow-minded, biased, and intolerant attitude distrustful of change. Tolerance, in contrast, is open-minded and welcomes novelty. The way to encourage tolerance in those who lack it is first to have them see through their own hothouse attitudes, which is the very counsel we are given in this kanji. So, house, hothouse, which is house grass, and C, tolerance. Tolerant. Okay. Dilute. Take a good look at this kanji. So we have, water specialty, flower water specialty. Take a look at this kanji. The strong element here is really the flower, not the water, as you might have thought on first glance. To the right is the acupuncturist from frame 48, taking the key to connote diluting the vital humors of the body. Can imagine our acupuncturist performing his task with flowers in place of needles and using their hollow stem to pipe water into the body of the patient. Okay. Acupuncturist using flowers to pipe uh, okay. Dilute. So here we have flower, generation, and tree. Three elements are given here: flower, generation, and tree. The first and the last seem logical enough, since it's the leaf that feeds the flower on a tree. The element for generation interposed between the two suggests that the movement of a tree from one generation to the next is like turning over a new leaf. Okay, a leaf is flower and generation tree. That's leaf. Tree turns on a new leaf. Yeah. Okay. So this is not a kanji on its own. It's a primitive, not kanji. And this is a graveyard. Graveyard is flower. Yeah. Flower, sun, large. The elements shown here should be taken to represent a modern graveyard. Gone are the cobwebs and gnarled trees, the tilted headstone, and dark, moonless nights that used to scare the wits out of our children's imaginations. Instead, we see brightly colored flowers placed before the tombstones, the sun shining gloriously overhead, and a cuddly Saint Bernard sitting at the gate keeping watch. Okay, so a graveyard is flower, sun, and Saint Bernard. All right, five more kanji, six more kanji. Okay, tree in graveyard, imitation. But haven't modern graveyards become a parody of their ancestors? The flowers are plastic, the writing on the stones is unimaginative and cold, and the whole thing looks like a marble or orchard that a right and proper a marble orchard than a right and proper graveyard. This kanji continues the modernization trend by picturing imitation trees in the graveyard. But of course, how convenient. They do not need pruning or fertilizing. Their leaves don't fall, and they remain the same color all year long. Okay, so imitation is um, plastic trees, plastic trees, and graveyard. Water and graveyard is vague. Think of the keyword as having to do with something viewed through a haze or in the twilight and from a distance, so that it only outlines so that it's all so that only its outlines are vaguely discernible. Now we are back again to the essence of the true graveyard. The water may be taken as the sound of waves dashing up against the rocks or dripping of moisture on the cold rock. Anything that helps you associate vagueness with graveyard and keep it distinct from the imitation we met in the last frame. So hazy graveyard. So water, graveyard, hazy. Vague. Sorry, not hazy. Okay. So we have one grave, So we have a graveyard and craft. The mounds of soil with crude wooden crosses set at their head suggest those Boot Hill graves we all know from cowboy lore. The mounds of soil with crude soil. Where's soil? Oh, it's soil, not craft. Okay. The mounds of soil with crude wooden crosses set at their head suggest those Boot Hill graves we all know from cowboy lore. The only odd thing about this kanji is that soil comes under the graveyard, rather than to its left, where we might expect. Just think of bodies as lying under Boot Hill, if you have any trouble. By the way, this is not the first time, nor will it be the last, that we learn a kanji whose keyword is the same or almost the same as a primitive element based on it, but whose shape differs somewhat. There is no cause to worry. By using the primitive in a variety of other characters, as we have done here, the confusion will be averted as a matter of course. In most cases, as here, the primitive element is taken from a part of the fuller kanji. Yeah. So grave is graveyard and soil. Grave is graveyard and soil. Okay, last three elements. We have livelihood, graveyard with a sun. Imagine you have chosen the occupation of the keeper of a graveyard and spend your days tending to others' deadhood in order to make your means of livelihood. Yeah. Graveyard days. Livelihood. Okay. Membrane. We have part of body or flesh, graveyard. The part of the body first affected by a stroll through through a haunted graveyard is the skin, which gets goosebumps. But we save the word skin for another kanji and use the odd word membrane here. Think of it being so scared through and through that the goose flesh moves from the outside in, giving you goose membrane. Goose membrane is part of body and graveyard. Membrane. Last one is flower and rice field. Seedling. To avoid confusion with the image of rice seedling to appear later, we shall take these seedlings out of their agricultural setting in the rice field and into the frame of a brave new world surgery where ideas or values are being implanted into brains like seedlings to ensure a harmonious society. Then you need only imagine them taking root and breaking out into flower, right through the tops of the skulls of people walking around on the streets. Okay, seedlings is flower and brain. Okay, add and done. let's now revise. So now we have added 15 new flashcards. Rebuild. Yeah, new 15. Let's erase and study. Right, livelihood. Livelihood is a means of making means as a graveyard. So graveyard days. Yeah. Young. Well, young is picking up flowers with the right hand. Vague, it's water, mist, water, vapor, and graveyard. Dilute. Dilute is acupuncturist using flowers to pipe water into the body. Oh, wait. Oh, there's a dash here as well. Yeah. Grave. Grave is graveyard. Just look at the soil. In a graveyard. Yep. Tolerant. Tolerant, we said hot house. C. Hot house is and see through the hot house. Imitation. Well, there's plastic trees in a graveyard. Suffering. Suffering is an old flower. Membrane. Well, it's the part of the body that gets goosebumps while passing through a graveyard. Leaf. Leaf is a flower after a generation tree. Flower becomes a tree after a generation. Yeah. Oh wait, leaf. We said, yeah. Tree turning on new leaf, turning on a new generation, turning on a new leaf. Yeah. Seedling. Flower. Brain. Seedling of thought. Seedling. Grass. It's just. Actually, you should edit this to make it primitive. Oh. Close. Grass. I didn't do it again. Again. Flower. This is flower, primitive. Should make it primitive. Yeah, so that's the flower primitive. Bullying. Bullying is flower that can be bullying. Graveyard. Well, it's flower, shining sun, and Saint Bernard. Grass. Well, Crocus. Early spring. Vague. That's water and a graveyard. Livelihood. It's making means in a graveyard. Days. Days make young. Picking up flowers with the right hand. Dilute. That's the acupuncturist using flowers to pipe water. Tolerant is hothouse. See through the hothouse. Grave. That's a graveyard. Look at the soil in the graveyard. Suffering. That's a flower. Old. Flower primitive is flower. Imitation. That's the plastic trees in a graveyard. Seedling. That's flower tree. Membrane. That's the part of body that is affected when passing through graveyard. Leaf. That's a flower generation tree. Bullying. That's flowers can be bullying. Graveyard. Should edit this, make it prim. Grass. That's a early spring. Crocus flower in early spring with the grass, yeah. Alright, we're done. And done with lesson 10. So I'll do lesson 11. Lesson 11 is short. It's supposed to be short. Yeah. 250 to 264. That's like 15 kanji. And then lesson 12 is large. It's 265 to 294. That's like around 30 kanji. 29, 30 kanji. Yeah. So I will do in the evening. I will do 11 and a bit part. Maybe I'll take some part of. Yeah, I see. Yeah, 260 to 268. 265. You know, how many primitives are introduced? Maybe to 270. Yeah. Anything that makes 12. So finishing, I might be able to finish 12. 11 and 12 tonight. That's actually, no, that's too much. Yeah, too much. Well, I don't know. Maybe. So after finishing 12, that um after finishing 12, finishing 12 will conclude the first part of the book, which where stories are provided. But then there would be plots. The second part. Second part is only lessons 13 to 19. So it's only like 7 lessons. Interestingly, so in the first part, there's only like 300 kanji. The second part concludes 547. So it's just around 250 kanji. Yeah. Where the majority of the book is nothing but something like this. Yeah, nothing much. Tree cliff and 10,000. Yeah, I know. I can read. I can read the primitives now that you have introduced them. So I don't really. I have no idea how. Yeah, so I'm supposed to come up with the stories myself. Um, Insect House Spoon. Sure, and I'm supposed to come up with a story, imaginative story, to help me memorize this kanji and the keyword, not just the kanji keyword. The Insect House Spoon I'm supposed to come up with an imaginative story. Yeah, and this is yeah. So the helpful part of the book, which are like the first 2 parts, is only like 547 kanjis. That's less than, yeah, that's exactly like a fourth of or 25% of the Joyo kanji. So actually finishing and that yeah, so that's, and we have like 56 chapters, right? Or 56 lessons. Half of them is like 27. So I'm not even halfway. I don't know. I'm almost halfway. Once like 20 to 27. 27. If I'm 27, am I halfway? 37. Yeah, so 27. 27 is indeed halfway, right? Yeah. 1,000, 1,000 or 100. Yeah, 1,000 or 100, that's halfway, right? Here is halfway the number of kanjis that the Joyo kanji are. So 27 chapters. And the first 20 of them, from or the first 19 of them, which are the parts of the lessons that have the helpful material with them, the stories and the plots. So those are only 550 of them, or 547. So in 7 lessons, the remaining half. So this 1,100, these 1,100 kanjis, or 1,103 kanjis, half of them is 550, right? Almost 550. And those took 20 or 19 lessons by themselves for 550 kanji. And the remaining 550 kanji that concludes the first half took only 7 lessons. Wow. So I don't know if this book is helpful enough or not. But I mean, it's supposed to have outlined the process in the first 550 kanjis, or presumably, I don't know. Let's see if we can. And this is nothing. This is just nothing but to remember the kanji. Remember the kanji with a keyword. Sure, you will get up and personal with the parts of the kanji, but is it worth it? Sorry. Is it worth it to spend all this time just drilling fake stories? I mean, people swear by this book or this method. Let's see. All right. Thank you. And bye. Is anybody watching? Let's see. I don't think anybody is watching. But I don't really care. It's just for me to feel like explaining to somebody. Yeah, I think it's just. Huh. Okay. Goodbye.